real fast, can you introduce yourself to us as a group? Or maybe I'll start. Steve Dicus, I'm kind of moderating the call, so.
Well, Steve, I accidentally started hitting record before we announced that we're going to be recording the meeting, and then that interfered with your whatever you just said.
Oh, so well, let's start. It's 3:30, and I'm Steve Dicus. I'm going to moderate this and try to bring some good community together and some good answers. And this real fast, name and what school you represent, and then Colin, hopefully you could kind of talk a little bit about what I have on the agenda that you've presented. So, who else is on the call?
I'm Pete Dubs from Golden High School.
Hey, Pete, you're breaking up a little bit just on my end. Anybody else?
Rob Hayworth, Laguna Creek High School.
Okay.
This is Matt Wynn from the Soaks High School.
Hey, Matt.
I'm Colin Denny, Pleasant Grove High School.
Sal Lascola with Monterey Trail High School.
Now we thought about nominating you for an Emmy for your presentation last week.
I don't know about that.
I didn't want Rob to hear that though.
I'm Colin Denny with Pleasant Grove High School.
Kevin, you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, okay. Kevin Ferris, application engineer with Solway Machine Tool.
Cool.
Thanks for having me here.
Perfect. And Dee, I see you're on the line as well.
Yes, I'm here too. Dee, I'm from Autodesk account manager for to support California community colleges.
Excellent. So as people jump on, we'll just have them kind of include themselves, but let's start with Colin. Tell us a little bit about what's going on, what you're trying with Tinkercad and how you're checking student work and how this is going with the curriculum and some of the other issues you've run into.
All right, am I back on there, guys?
You're back on, man.
All right, I got kicked off for a second. I'm gonna try and share my screen and show you guys a few things I've been working on with Tinkercad. It says here, Steve, can you stop sharing? And then I think I can share.
Yeah, Jeff, can you stop my sharing?
Yep.
Thank you. Because I've lost my button on the bottom. Oh, there you go.
Okay, go for it.
All right, can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I've been doing some work with Tinkercad. I will say this, my district, and I guess specifically my administrators, really want us to focus on like reviewing and not teaching new material. I think this actually works pretty good for that because we've already kind of done these lessons. And this will just kind of help review basic circuits. What I'm going to use Tinkercad for is not their 3D design stuff, but more their circuits, their lessons, and I might do some Arduino programming with some of my classes that have seen that already. The first thing you guys got to do, and I think you guys got this from Steve a week or so ago, it's just a quick link on how to set up a Tinkercad classroom. It's pretty straightforward, but you got to make sure you're registered as an educator with Autodesk. If you're not already registered as an educator, if you just have like a generic Autodesk account, I think you have to actually contact Tinkercad and have them switch you over or create another account if you can do that. You might have to do some work on that. Let me get into here. Let me get over to here. So the first thing I did was create a class, which was really easy. I just click right here where it says classes and Denny distance learning. And I had my two daughters, actually, there they are. I had my two daughters as my students so I can see what it looks like on their end. Once they're in the class, you just tell your students to go through basic lessons. So right here you have a lessons tab, and these are all the lessons my daughter has gone through Tinkercad. So Tinkercad walks you through everything you do. I like it. I'll tell you one thing, I don't find this a waste of time. I think I'll end up using this in the classroom in the future, which is what I'm looking for. Largely because you get a nice pictorial view of the circuit diagram, and you can actually on here. So one way I'm going to use this in the future, I can give them a pictorial diagram, and then as I transition the students over to just pure schematics, I can start them with this kind of stuff and actually kind of hopefully shorten that learning curve on how to read schematics a little bit. The nice thing about this Tinkercad deal, though, is you actually simulate circuits and actually see if they're working correctly. My internet's a little slow out here, but once this loads up, I can actually press on those buttons and you'll see the LED change color or get brighter. You could actually import in a multimeter and actually take readings on amperages and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be a really good thing for the students. I really want to emphasize, though, I think this is a unit. This is not a full, I'm not going to use this as a full curriculum. I just want some students to go through some basic wiring. But it's kind of nice. Like my daughter dragged all these components in here, and you could actually click on this and, okay, hey, that light turns red, that turns blue, that turns green. I can click on multiple buttons and I get purple. So you can actually test their circuits to see if they're actually working without them actually have any materials.
How old's your daughter?
She's 10. And she did this on a Chromebook on her school account. So it should work for everyone, regardless, as long as they have internet access, they should be able to do all this. So how it has to work. Let me see if I can get this to move. I gotta get out of this. Here we go. So how I'm gonna assign this to my students, they're gonna go through these lessons that are in Tinkercad. So if I just go back to Tinkercad and I'm gonna click on lessons, and Tinkercad has a ton of pre-set up lessons. First off, it starts with, let me get to, it has starters, lessons, and projects. I don't know that I'll get to projects, but they look pretty good for Arduino stuff. I'm gonna come down here and not do the starters on 3D. I'm gonna go right down to circuits. And these first 4 starting assignments, it's just really how to use the Tinkercad interface. So they've done a nice job of teaching how to use the interface there. And all I'm going to have my students do is change this resistor, change that LED, so I can at least see that they actually went through it and did it. So if I go back to my classroom, I'm going to say, hey, that LED should be blue. And I can go to my classes. I can actually look at all my student stuff. If this actually goes a little faster here. I have to click on each individual student, so that will take a little while. But I can then go to her circuits, our lessons, and I should be able to see, okay, if that LED should be blue if she did her assignment correctly. So I don't have to actually click on it and open up every single thing. I'm trying to set it up where I can have a visual that they modified the file somehow, modified the lesson, and I could actually just see it right here and check them off for that. It keeps going through. It has a bunch of stuff. I don't know where you guys, with what you're teaching. So starters, this is how to use all the various Tinkercad stuff. Lessons. We have Ohm's law lesson, so you could bring that in. They could actually talk about making resistance, and you can see here, you can actually bring in a multimeter. You can measure amperage, obviously voltage, a bunch of stuff for series and parallel circuits. Once you get into the projects, it seems to be most of the projects are Arduino based. So if you're not doing any kind of programming, I don't know how many of the projects will work with you, but I do teach Arduino programming. So I could have a lot of my students kind of go in and they could actually write the code for this, import the code, they could simulate it, and I could actually test that their code actually worked here in a virtual Arduino deal. So I thought those were all pretty good. I'm definitely going to use them, and I think I'll continue to use them in the future as well, as my students, as I give assignments to students in the classroom in a more traditional setting. Some of the problems I have had though, there was one time in particular that my daughter logged back in and all of her work was gone in the classroom. And unfortunately is what happens when you get a classroom, just like in Google Classroom, every student is given a classroom code that they have to type in. My daughter had to then just re-enter that classroom code, and all her work came back, but it was gone for that little bit of time. If a student does, for whatever reason, it wasn't that big of a deal, but I think you may want to tell students that if you guys continue to consider to play with this in the future. Other than that, yeah.
Colin, I got to ask this question just like along that line. Is there ways for students to back up their work, and inversely, when it comes to you, does it automatically get backed up in your school system?
It seems to be all held in the Tinkercad cloud.
Okay.
So there's no saving of stuff. It's just like a Google Doc, it seems to be. But like I said, it went away once. We were able to get out pretty quickly. So you just had to put that classroom code in again. I have another friend that's on, there's a way that Tinkercad can integrate with Google Classroom. And I have another coworker of mine who's going to play with that to see if that helps the re-entering the classroom code a little bit. But I didn't think that was that big of a deal. She still had all her stuff. It didn't totally go away. It just, we had to add to the classroom again. And then I could see everything just fine. I could check her work pretty easily. I can provide feedback and post comments on that. So it seemed to work pretty good. I definitely think though, this is something that is just going to reinforce the stuff I've currently taught. I'm not teaching anything really new, but hopefully just keep their skills sharp and stuff like that. Plus Tinkercad, all the lessons are on there. Other than creating the classroom and monitoring student work, there's not a whole lot of curriculum development with this. It seems like Tinkercad's done it all for us.
So people on the call, what kind of questions do you have about Tinkercad? Maybe can you use this or something like this going forward? You got another, what, 8 or 9 weeks you've got to come up with curriculum?
I've used it in the past, and I would love to know more about how it integrates with Google Classroom. I didn't know that was an option.
So there was, so I have not done that yet. I haven't integrated with Google Classroom, but they have it. I think it's a relatively new thing. I think it's a relatively new thing, but Buck Young or Michael Young, you guys know him, he's messing with that right now with his wife's class. But right here, designs with Google Classroom, they seem to have that kind of integrated. I haven't played with that too much yet though.
Okay, I'll look into that. Awesome, thank you.
So Pete and Colin, this is Dicus again. I can recontact the gentleman with Autodesk who gave me a lot of that Tinkercad information last week and see if they have a way that they can kind of work you through. I've got this on my notes, right?
Yeah,
right,
Steve,
Dan?
I was about to say, yeah, please share the person's contact with the folks, and then he should be able to direct you guys to the right direction or find the information so you don't have to search around on the internet and spend hours to try it out.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't find it very complicated. I found it pretty straightforward. I had an 8-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. They both got in. They were both messing around with stuff. My 10-year-old daughter was able to follow the prompts and actually successfully complete the assignment. She needs to change the color of her wires and a few things like that. But my 8-year-old just had a bunch of fun fooling around with it. So I think it definitely I could definitely go right into the classroom with that. I think it should work pretty good.
Yeah, and I was thinking about giving you the contact for the guy so you can kind of work on Google Classroom and stuff like that and getting all that to integrate.
Yeah.
So Colin, when you code this, is it like block coding or?
They have a block code option, and they have just what I call line code or whatever, just more regular code.
So
I teach. Go ahead, John.
No, I was wondering how close is it to programming a PLC? Are there similarities?
Yeah, there's definitely similarities. I found PLC to be a little bit of a different animal, though. PLC, it's also you can program anything, and a PLC is a little more directed at that component that you're doing. I don't know how much it would carry over. You probably know more about PLC because of the heating and air stuff that you do than I do. I mean, we do more robotics-based stuff, so it's kind of just, you know, I'm not exactly sure how close it is to what you teach, John, and what you cover.
Yeah, no,
really
because
speak to that.
for HVAC, that's DDC, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But in advanced manufacturing, and they have robotics, so that's a lot of PLC.
Yeah, so it's a C-based program. So anything that's you know, C-based, C, C++, any of that kind of stuff, it's the same kind of language. It works pretty good, and the fact that they can do it at home at their own pace, and there's a ton of scaffolding that Tinkercad has done to help them out with it as well, so they shouldn't get too lost.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts about Tinkercad for the group?
I really like the way you could bring in components and lay out wiring diagrams too. I'm using that in my classroom for sure. It's very similar to fritzing if you guys have used that. I found it to be a little easier than fritzing. So I liked all that. Definitely give it an endorsement.
Colin, thank you so much for your time and sharing with what you're doing. So as a group, would you mind, I'd like to just kind of throw something out as a starting point for discussion. Then I'd like to bring Pete in to have him talk about what he's doing, and then maybe we can continue this on. But I was talking with a couple of folks the other day. Back when I started back in the 70s, LA Unified, you know, there was 5 or 6 shop teachers on every campus. There was community colleges, had full programs, industrial arts programs, as well as state colleges. And one of the things we used to do almost on a monthly basis, we would all come together at somebody's shop and we'd work on a common project, as an example. That helped us create a community, but I'm thinking for maybe this summer, once we get through these next 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, whatever you've got left, maybe we schedule some things like that and we come together and talk about and work together on how do we create these online environments going forward with some of the learning that we've had here on the job training that we're doing right now. Because I have a sense and a feeling, I don't know what your sense is, but there may be more of this coming in the future. Not to say there'll be more pandemics, but do you think your admin may want to force more online learning for your students? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Steve, I think in the community college sector, definitely that's where we're headed, is online. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, with number 114, college 114. They've been talking about that for years, and so
right,
it's reality. So.
And I think, and I don't know what your school administration's doing for next fall, but we already got our marching orders for next fall, and we're going to go back face to face, but be prepared at a moment's notice to transfer online.
That's the same way with how Sierra College is going to be.
And who was that?
It's Tyler from Sierra College. He's in the engineering department there at Sierra College.
Okay.
So as part of the physics and engineering, we're going to be most likely going back, but I have to design all our curriculum. So anytime if they choose not to, we got to be ready.
All right.
That's probably not a bad thing for all of us. What do you guys and gals think?
Right now, I don't really assign homework or anything like that because you know, the limitations. Well, with this, I can actually give students work to do at home, come into the classroom, be more, optimize my classroom time a little better. So I think that's just a good approach going forward.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. Everything I'm building right now to do this online, I'm really trying to set it up so that it'll be useful to me again in the fall, even when we're having face-to-face classes. I'll still do live demonstrations, but now I'll have video demonstrations that, oh, you missed class that day, or you just want to see it again or whatever. A kid can pull it up on their phone and watch the demo over again.
Right. So I'm curious on the high schools, what LMS system that you're using? LMI? I'm sorry, LMI. Do you know?
What's LMI?
Learning management. I forget what the I stands for. Like we use Canvas,
Oh.
you know, Blackboard.
Yeah.
We
have in Elk Grove Unified, we have a thing called Synergy.
Okay.
And they really push Google Classroom for most communication and stuff, management and stuff.
Yeah, we use Google Classroom really.
So does Google Drive allow you to load up folder? You can have folders and inserts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's cool, because I know when we switched to online in our department, since we used everything, we were pretty much a Canvas. We use Canvas as a backbone for our department. So for the lectures, it was a really smooth transition. But those people who were that did not use Canvas and they just were traditional face-to-face, it was a very, very rough transition to go from face-to-face to online.
Yeah. So let's look forward to doing something together this summer. Maybe a couple of these sessions, and we can go to somebody's place. And
Steve, I think that's a great idea. I'd be happy to host one.
Okay.
I don't know what people want to do, but we can come up with a project to do together.
Yeah, I think if we do 3 or 4 of these over the summer and whatever ones you can come to, I think it does help us as a community and help us be prepared for new things coming up in the future. Cool. Well, we'll talk more about it. Sounds like there's an interest.
Yeah. So the gentleman from engineering from Sierra College.
Yes.
Are you holding summer school on campus, or is it online?
Online only.
Online. How about the high schools?
We
don't know yet. Online though, more likely.
Yeah. We have a Godoti program, which brings high school students onto our campus. So I imagine it's still going to be online.
So I'm just wondering, if we're all online with our students, are they going to allow us to come back on campus?
Our campus is still open.
Oh, really?
But not to students. Some faculty, but it's really cut down to maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I work 1 to 2 days a week and then work from home the other 3 days. So we still have access to our facilities to do filming. So I set up tripods and different stations and I post those videos to YouTube.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, but I got to punch out. I'll be joining the next call.
All right, sounds good.
Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Hey, Pete, you want to start us off and tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, and I guess I'll start with Google Classroom, just since we were kind of on the topic, and I get my mouse to work here and find what do you want to share on desktop? Yeah, that's what I want to share. Okay. Can you guys see this? It says I'm sharing my screen, but now I don't hear anything. What happened to my audio?
We saw you.
Oh, okay.
We lost you video-wise, but we can see you. We can see your screen.
Screen that says Introduction to Engineering, and April 13 to 17?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So this is just kind of a look inside Google Classroom. I actually just set this up yesterday, and I got my engineering classes pretty well lined out to the end of the month in here. So if somebody's really motivated, they can finish all of April's work, you know, this week if they wanted to, or they could do what I would do, which is probably wait until about 2 days before to even look at it. So somebody asked about how you could attach things. So this is the first week we come back from spring break, and I put this here, and I made a little intro video that basically just walks my kids through finding this, which they're all pretty familiar with at this point. Right before we stopped coming to school, we were gonna start turning things on a lathe. We were gonna make pens out of aluminum and take the guts from a Bic pen and put inside. So I found some textbooks that I literally took to the scanner, and just as a starting out introduction to the lathe, scanned the pages, uploaded the PDF in here, and this textbook at the end has these nice self-test review questions. So then I just have the kids answer the questions, and they can submit their answers directly to the assignment. And then I created them an example of what their answers might look like. Let's go back here. And so then I have that. So that's Monday after spring break. And then there's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I decided that we're going to have work ethic Fridays for the remainder of the year. I think I might do this next year as well. Dan Frank gave me 15 or 16 lesson plans on work ethic. So we're on the second one this upcoming Friday, and it's called Automatic. I'll just pull this up and you guys can take a look at the kind of the lesson plan here. So there's a link to this video. These things I've found, they have this a little bit kind of in your face feel to them. The first one was about entitlement. It didn't sugarcoat anything. And so this week the kids watch Miranda Lambert music video and then respond to these questions here. And I told them they don't have to answer every single question. They can pick 2 or 3 and write me a 2-page roughly response to the video and submit it. And then I will just grade that for done or not done. And then when they submit, if I click on, oh, here we go. I gotta hit view assignment. And here's all my students' work. None of them have done it yet, but if a student were to do it, I can write comments to them here. I can give them a grade right here, send that back to them. They can get all of that pretty fast. And to help them stay on track, this little icon up here is in my way, but that's not the one I want. I want this. So also, Google Classroom posts all their assignments to a calendar. So here's everything laid out for the rest of April. We're intro basics of lathe and vertical milling, and then we go into CNC. And I'm hoping by the time we finish this, they'll have a basic understanding of what G&M codes are. I looked at, I know Rob shared last week or the week before, that simulator for Tormach, and I'm still playing around with that, and I'm hoping to be able to have them write some simple G codes and load them into that simulator. Also, I wanted to show you guys Fusion. Dee set me up after our call last week with the browser-based version of Fusion. If you have a Fusion account, you're probably familiar with how to get into this space right here. And from here, if I click on Fusion Team, we'll go as fast as the internet will let me. Well, I think I have to click Access now. Here we go. I'm actually doing this at work because the internet is so much faster than at my house. So then here's all of my different projects. So I'll go down and I'll open up the Titan project. And so let's see, we'll just open, I'll click on 1M and it comes up here, and then I'll go to open in and I'll say open in web. There's a few steps involved to get there, but when it loads, for my kids that have internet connection, this will be a complete 3D modeling environment. And so what I'm hoping to do is in a couple of weeks here, I'm going to have them do some simple design projects they can do at home, and the ones with the internet capability can model in Fusion, and the ones without can sketch on a paper or napkin or whatever they got lying around. And then they can just have them take a picture of what they sketched and send it back to me. And come on. Yeah, of course, now it doesn't load. It works, I swear.
Hey, Pete, while we're waiting, going back to Google Classroom, when they do assignments, does that automatically populate to your gradebook?
It doesn't populate to my gradebook, but what it does let me do, let me click back over here on this tab. If I grade them in here, and then I'm on a Chromebook right now, but at my main desk, I have 2 screens. And so I'll put my gradebook on one screen and my Google Classroom on the other, and I'll just go down and type in the grades real fast from one to the other. And let's see, did that load? No, I don't know if the internet's going to cooperate with me while I'm doing video.
Gotta love technology when it works.
Right, I know. I was really impressed with this platform when I first got in here, and it was pretty much I could just work on any designs that I wanted to from my Chromebook, which I'd never been able to do before. So let's go. I'm gonna close that and see. I don't want to hit the stop share.
So D, is this the new feature that you guys were talking about last week about what Autodesk is doing with the Chromebooks and the accessibility?
Okay. Yeah, D might be on mute, but I will. I think I would say with 90% confidence this is, like, after my conversation with her last week, I sent her an email, she sent me some stuff back, and I was able to get access, which is not loading at the moment, but it actually has worked really great.
Dee said she had to leave in chat.
Oh, okay. Well then, in that case, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, yeah, that's the one. And then one more thing that I'll share with you guys here that is, I haven't picked a project from this yet, but I have this project guide from Siemens, and they have it broken down into major units. So you have engineering, design, process, sketching, all these different things. And then if we go scroll down into them, oops, I went too fast, too far. All right, so we have, here's, let's see. Okay, so here's 3D solid modeling, fabrication, and 3D printing, and they have some different projects and things underneath it here. Some of these I think can be adapted for home. One of the ones I'm thinking about doing with my students is this kitchen tool design. I think it's something like I can have them look around the house and figure out some way, and I might open it up to just find what is the #1 sort of inconvenience they're experiencing, and to have them try to tackle coming up with something to help make that transition a little bit easier. And this is, I got from Siemens for free, and it comes with, this is the student edition I have open. There's a teacher edition. They will send it to anybody that wants it, or I could send you guys both the PDFs, and you're welcome to look through those. and explore other possible options.
Pete, you want to send it to me? This is Dicus, and then I can distribute them out if you'd like.
Sure, will do. Yeah, I'm gonna write that down real quick. Send Siemens to Steve. Perfect. And let me hit stop share. And just another kind of shout out to a place that I'm getting book work from. I'm doing a lot of scanning textbooks, which is probably frowned upon, but desperate times. Good Heart Wilcox has been awesome. They're going to send me a 90-day free subscription to their online version of geometric dimensioning and tolerancing. So for my kids that I was hoping to get into doing tolerances with in the next 2 weeks, I might actually be able to still do some of that. Not the same as measuring hands-on, but better than nothing.
So how quick did Goodhart Wilcox, how quick did they respond to your request?
Well, they responded right away. They gave me access right away, but told me that it might take a few days to get the actual stuff they're sending me. And it's been, I think, 3 or 4 days, and I still don't have it.
Okay. So Pete, great job. Pete, anybody have questions for Pete about some of the things some of the resources he's showing us, the stuff from Siemens or Google Classroom, anything like that? Thanks, Pete. Nice job.
I have a question for Pete. Steve.
There you go.
So Pete, would you mind if I shared your contact information with the gentleman that runs our CNC program?
Not at all. No, please do. Back here, I'll put my email in the chat right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. Yeah, any of these things that, I don't know, I'm just making it up as I go, and if it can help somebody else, all of this I got from somebody else, so happy to pass.
Hey,
it on.
Pete.
Yeah.
This is Sal. So I was initially interested in Fusion 360 as well. But are you planning on teaching that material to your kids, or do you want them to just kind of go through it and figure it out on their own?
All of my students are already familiar with Fusion 360. We've been using it for the past, since about January. They started and use it daily. So they're pretty comfortable with it. It's just in terms of now having access via Chromebook. Because only 1 or 2 of them have a Windows computer at home that they could use to access it. With the Chromebook option, it opens it up to like all except for maybe 2.
So I talked to Dee last week when we had this discussion, and a person from her company sent me a form for our high school to sign and say, hey, we'll get you set up with some remote users for your students on Chromebooks. But I asked her a question. It's a bummer she left. I want to find out, do you know if your students have to provide any personal information when signing up online?
Student email address, first name, last name.
Okay.
So I've messed around with the browser-based Fusion, and maybe it's better now, Pete, but I found it just like when you were trying to show, it's very intermittent for a lot of students. That was one knock I had on it. Somehow it's not the latency or something like that, but I found myself getting a little frustrated. Pete, are you seeing some of those same things, or is it a better, cleaner product now?
I mean, the first time I opened it was last week, and I spent 30-40 minutes messing with it, and my initial impression was I was really impressed.
Okay.
I haven't actually used it between then and now, and so now that it didn't load, I'm down to 50-50.
Thanks for the info, Pete. Thanks for the info, Pete. Appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Pete, thank you very much. Hey, so let's open it up now to the group. Anything new that's come up, any new challenges you have, any new resources you'd like us to try to come together as a group or individually? How can we help each other?
So this is Sal again. My wife's in the same boat as me. We both are teachers here at the district, and she gave me a resource that was pretty interesting. Pete, I saw you were having to scan some textbooks and provide those to your students. I know that for many of us, we're trying to figure out how to provide online documentation for them to read and maybe add answers to. So I got this resource from her that is a really cool way of creating a Google Doc file that can be delivered to your students that's interactive, which means if you have questions you want them to answer on the file, they can click in a box and type in their answers and other things, rather than trying to create a special PDF, because sometimes that can be pretty time consuming. So if you guys like, I'll post the link here. It's about a, I don't know, 10-15 minute video. She's I think a K through 6 teacher, I believe, but either way, for many of us who do this kind of work, it might be useful. So if you guys don't mind, I'll post it here in the chat.
Yeah,
please do.
Please.
What else? We've got other people online. Tell us some of the good things you're doing.
I have a question in terms of like that we talked about in the beginning, Steve. My district seems to be really cautious with video sharing and stuff like that. They don't want students' faces out there, and it's all big time on security and privacy. So, and I just haven't looked this up, but do you guys know a way where, as a meeting host, how can you limit webcam and chat and all those things so that you control everything that happens in the classroom? Does anyone have any familiarity with Zoom or another video conference like this?
Yeah, in the menus in Zoom, you are able to take control of all those options when setting up a new meeting.
Okay.
Sorry.
Other ideas or thoughts? Well, here's a question then for the group. So Tyler, you're pretty adept at using Zoom. You've used it more than once.
I use it on a daily.
I thought so. Would you be willing to show us some of these things you just talked about next week on the call?
Yeah, sure, I don't mind.
Would you be the Zoom guru, if you will, and show us some of the fine points?
Yeah, I set up tutors to teach every day. So custom meetings, things like that. We received custom training over at Sierra College before everything went down.
Perfect. I think that'd be very beneficial to the group.
Yeah, not a problem.
Hey, Matt, we haven't heard from you. Anything going on with you?
That's a good question. No, I've been using Google Classroom this whole school year, so obviously I don't have any questions about that whole world right there. And I am going to use Tinkercad only because now what I normally do is out of the window. I start new classes when we finally start instruction next week, and so it's going to be kind of interesting how I put this thing together. But I definitely am interested in some of the ideas that I've heard so far. There's no doubt about that. I'm able to carry over some of the assignments that I've had in previous terms to this term coming up. Just simple things to kind of just fill some space, especially one, to give them something to do, and two, to buy some time until I get really good at some of the other new items. So I don't really have anything at this time. Certainly nothing.
Matt, what's your subject area?
Engineering, building trades.
Okay, cool.
So we have an intro to engineering class at Sierra College in which we've adopted a Blockly parallax system. And if you play around in Tinkercad, the coding, the block form coding is really representative of the same system. So if people work with either of those, it gives a very graphical way of coding for the students to try and learn from. But you can also switch back and forth so they can see it done graphically and then switch over and see, oh, how did the actual code change in C?
What else would you guys and gals like to see in future meetings like this?
I really like the format, Steve. I appreciate you putting this together and having folks kind of take us through, what they're doing, and it helps generate ideas. And I'm looking forward to the Zoom tutorial next week. I could stand to be better at using Zoom or these various different teleconferencing platforms myself. So.
Me too.
Hey, Jeff, while you're talking, you want to tell a little bit about what Mark Martin's doing over in the Bay Area? And he's got these calls now every Wednesday, I think at 11. I think I sent that link out to everybody, but you want to just tell us a little bit about what he's doing over there?
He's kind of trying to organize the same thing. Yeah, so Mark Martin is my counterpart. He's the regional director for advanced manufacturing out of the Bay Area, and he started. He kind of came up with the idea for these on his own. Reached out to a bunch of instructors and got them on a call, and they're doing the same kind of a thing. At one point, I think you guys might have seen them on the call last week. Mark actually contributed some good information on I think 2 of our calls last week. So anyway, I don't know, Steve, is there anything specific you wanted me to mention?
No, just filling a little time, but also
other than we're being copycatted.
Well, did everybody get the link for tomorrow's call? I believe it's at 11. Or do I need to resend that?
Go ahead and resend it. I don't think everybody got it.
I'll resend it after this call. This will be a whole nother group of people talking just like we're talking now.
Yeah, and one thing that we discussed, because I'm on calls with Mark, and all the regional directors in California meet weekly or bi-weekly and talk about how we can help you guys and support you guys, and we share our ideas. And we thought about merging the call, but I think it's better. We all decided it's better to keep these things regional. We want you guys to work closely together with each other, build those strong relationships. But with that being said, you are welcome to join those other calls, which is why Steve will send out that invite, because they might be doing something that we're not. And, it's just nice to be able to share or hop on those calls and eavesdrop whenever you want. So, and vice versa. They may, a couple of their instructors may join us from time to time.
So, Steve, I just threw on a chat. It's the web address for another simulator. It's called Circuit Construction Kit for DC.
Okay.
Pretty simple. And again, the students build circuits. They can test it with a voltmeter. I think they can check the amps. And they use batteries. And if you get the amp draw up too high, it's pretty cool. The battery catches on fire. So
that'll get their interest.
Fire's cool. So, guys might want to play with that. It's okay.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Hey, so I was thinking holding another call like this next Tuesday. Does that work for everybody's calendar and schedule, Tuesday afternoon? Yeah, Pete?
Yes.
Oh, Pete, yeah, okay. So I'll send out hopefully the right link this time. And we'll do that.
And
Any
Steve,
other party? Yeah, yes, Al.
Before we go, I wanted to give you a quick update from last week's talk that I had about the AutoCAD web app.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot more research, and if you want, I'm sure by next Tuesday I should have some more information as to how I'm going to be having my kids use it. Turns out it's more of a kind of a nice 2D editing tool, and it's accessible from Chromebook. I had a couple of students log in with their Chromebooks to see if they had any problems, and it seems to be working. So if you want, I can do a little show and tell next Tuesday on that to show you what we're doing.
I think that'd be great. Okay, so that'll be great. So we'll have Tyler next week on Zoom, and Sal's going to talk a little bit about the AutoCAD web app, which I think would be very valuable. Anybody else want to share next Tuesday? Or is it too early to tell?
It's a week away.
Does it seem like forever right now?
It does.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, so fun times. Well, so let's bring this to close. I mean, we could sit here for the next 8 minutes if we want to get to 4:30, but I think we can have other things to do.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you all jumping on and sharing and asking questions. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody stay well.
Thank you.